Hey. Buckle up. Today's story from our space is truly out of this world. Zombies are all the rage these days, right? Everyone's obsessed with plagues that turn people into the undead. Unfortunately, this isn't that kind of infection. No brain cravings here. Just the kind that makes you seriously rethink your life choices. Today on our space. This is one outbreak you definitely don't want to get from your partner. Title: My cheating wife knowingly gave me an STI. I took her to court and left her with nothing. I'm 29M, and my wife is 28F. We've been married for 5 years. In that time, we've weathered more storms than most couples our age. We stood side by side through her mother's passing and a period where we both lost our jobs. It always felt like we could survive anything life threw at us. One of the hardest moments came 3 years ago, when I had a brief cancer scare. Thankfully, it was caught early, and after surgery to remove the tumor plus some radiation, I was in the clear. It wasn't life-threatening in the end, but it left me with a permanent resolve to never gamble with my health. Now, if I have a bad headache or a lingering stomach ache, I get it checked. My wife likes to joke I'm just shy of being a hypochondriac, but I know better. I can't afford to take risks. And that brings us to my current situation. I'll spare you the gritty details, but let's just say I knew something was wrong when things started burning. I booked a doctor's appointment immediately. The results: chlamydia. I was floored. I hadn't been with anyone except my wife for years, which meant there was only one possible source, her. First, I refused to believe it. I knew chlamydia was sexually transmitted, but I still scoured the internet for other possible causes. Nothing. No matter how many flimsy excuses I entertained, the truth was unavoidable. She had cheated on me. That realization hit like a punch to the gut. There are plenty of awful ways to find out your spouse is unfaithful, but catching an STI from them is right up there at the top. The infection itself wasn't the worst part. It's treatable after all. What really sickened me was knowing I'd contracted it through her affair partner. It felt like being unwillingly dragged into their betrayal. I hadn't noticed any signs before this. No drop in affection, no change in her attitude, no suspicious absences, though now I realized she got home from work a couple of hours before me. That window would have been perfect for an affair. As for intimacy, she'd been avoiding sex entirely for about a week, which I'd brushed off because her libido was always lower than mine. But now the reason was obvious. I confronted her the same day. I slammed the test results on the counter and told her to read the circled section. Something in her reaction, or rather her lack of surprise, told me she'd been expecting this moment. She tried to deny it at first, asking where I supposedly got it from. I reminded her she was the only person I'd been with. She barely reacted, insisting she didn't believe me and suggesting I'd caught it elsewhere. That infuriated me. She was dodging responsibility while fully aware she'd been unfaithful. We argued back and forth until she finally shifted tactics, claiming maybe it had been dormant in one of us from a past relationship. I already knew that was impossible. I'd researched it, but I pretended to consider it, even apologizing and kissing her forehead. Outwardly, I agreed to get her tested and treated. Inwardly, I was setting a trap. If she thought I'd bought her story, she might get sloppy. I needed proof, not for myself, but to control the narrative. If we both came out accusing each other of passing on an STI, people would probably side with her. And I wanted closure. I wanted to know who the other guy was. I waited a few days, playing the role of the trusting husband. I texted her during the day, hugged her, kissed her cheek. Sex was still off the table while I was on medication, which was fine, since the thought of being intimate with her now repulsed me. When I decided enough time had passed, I went through her phone while she slept. She's a deep sleeper, so slipping in and out of bed was easy. I scanned her messages for unfamiliar names and landed on one: Drew. No emoji next to his name. Unusual since she always added them for friends. The earliest text was from the day after I'd confronted her. I think he actually believed it. The rest of their exchange was vague, clearly cautious. I realized she must have deleted all their prior messages right after our confrontation, then resumed texting once she thought I'd bought her lie. Smart move. Many cheaters don't clean up their digital tracks. But she wasn't as careful as she thought. I checked her social media DMs. Nothing. Then I opened her photo gallery. She's always been obsessed with taking pictures, and early in our relationship, she constantly asked me for selfies. That gave me hope she might have missed something. Scrolling through years of photos turned up nothing. Until I remembered her hidden folder. She used to store intimate photos there when we were dating. If Drew had sent her anything, that's where it would be. Same old passcode. Bingo. Inside were dozens of explicit images. Some solo, some of the two of them together, some during sex acts. Even though I'd already accepted she was cheating, seeing it in pictures was gut-wrenching. I couldn't look away though. This was the ammunition I needed. I sat there for half an hour, numb at first, then boiling with anger. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd exposed me to a disease and then tried to flip the blame. In the morning I said nothing. I kept up the act, all while backing up every incriminating text and photo to my own phone. The images made my skin crawl, but I knew I needed every scrap of evidence I could get. And then I made my next move. I spoke with a lawyer and began the divorce process. We're now in the thick of preparing for the split. I've been moving funds out of our joint accounts, documenting all my personal assets, and organizing every digital record I could find. All the incriminating photos and messages were sorted neatly into one folder, then backed up to 2 separate drives so nothing could ever be accidentally lost. Oddly enough, preparing for the divorce was the first time I'd felt any real sense of purpose since discovering her affair. It made it easier to keep up the act, going through the motions pretending I still cared. Sure, I still had waves of sadness and moments where I felt drained, but the thought of holding her accountable kept me going. Man, that's brutal. Learning your partner cheated is already bad enough. But then she handed you an STI and tried to pass it off with the, "It's been dormant for years" excuse? Please. No one should ever have to deal with that level of betrayal from the very person who's supposed to protect you. You deserve far better than someone who would gamble with your health without a second thought. Update. While I was preparing the divorce paperwork, I stumbled upon something that completely shifted the situation. Some people suggested my wife might not have known she was infected when she passed it to me. Sure, it's possible she had no symptoms, but that doesn't change the fact that she was still unfaithful. People online will twist themselves into knots to excuse a cheater, and it blows my mind. But none of that mattered anymore, because of what I found in her email one night. I'd been searching for messages between her and Drew when it occurred to me to check her inbox. That's when I spotted an email titled, "Your lab results are ready," from a local clinic. Attached was a PDF. When I opened it, there it was, a positive chlamydia result. The kicker. It was dated 3 weeks before my own diagnosis. That's when I lost it. She had known. The entire time. She knew she had it, she knew she could give it to me, and she still chose to sleep with me. No warning, no precautions. And to top it off, she'd accused me of being the one who brought it into our marriage. That was my breaking point. I'd planned to wait until the divorce paperwork was finalized, but I couldn't hold back. I shook her awake and demanded an explanation. Her first words. "You went through my phone." I told her I'd been doing that for a while and that I already knew about Drew. She sat up and instantly started apologizing. Whatever moral high ground she thought she had vanished in an instant. She claimed Drew was a coworker and that their fling had started as a one-time mistake that spiraled out of control. Cut her off. I didn't care about her excuses. I'd already accepted she was cheating, but the lab results were beyond anything I could forgive. She started crying, claiming she hadn't told me because she wanted to protect me. I told her that deliberately infecting me was a great way to make me feel safe. The irony hit me mid-sentence. If she'd truly cared about protecting me, she would have used protection with him in the first place. Through gasping sobs, she insisted she meant she wanted to shield me from the knowledge of the affair because she knew I'd leave her. I started pacing just to burn off my anger. She didn't care about me. She just didn't want to face the truth. After all, this was the same woman who had bragged to her affair partner about how I'd swallowed her lie. I told her it was over. Divorce papers would be coming soon. She could leave in the morning if she wanted, but I wasn't going anywhere. Then I left her sobbing in bed and slept in the guest room. She knocked on my door 15 minutes later, begging to work things out. I ignored her until she stopped an hour later. When my lawyer saw the email, he told me it was a game changer. Not only could we use it to block any claim for spousal support, but we could also sue her for negligence for knowingly giving me an STI. That sounded perfect to me. We got started immediately. The divorce moved quicker than I expected. My lawyer was fantastic, sharp, experienced, and genuinely sympathetic to my situation. When I told him we were still under the same roof, he advised me to keep all contact to a bare minimum and never react emotionally to anything she said. It was difficult advice to follow, but surprisingly effective. Cutting her off entirely seemed to get under her skin more than anything I could have said, and eventually she stopped trying to engage. When our court date arrived, I was ready. Every piece of evidence, the texts, the photos, and especially the lab results, was laid out in order. The moment the judge saw the test dates, it was clear she had knowingly exposed me to an infection. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted instantly. Her lawyer looked uneasy the whole time. His only defense was that she'd been overwhelmed and trying to save the marriage. No one bought it. In the end, the ruling was heavily in my favor. Assets were split fairly evenly, but she got zero spousal support. The negligence case was also a win. Proving she'd knowingly infected me wasn't hard. She was ordered to cover my legal and medical expenses, plus additional damages for emotional distress. She did not take it well. Not only had she lost alimony and been hit with a hefty payout, but she'd also lost her job. According to her, the company said the negligence suit reflected poorly on them, so she was let go. She's talked about suing them, but my lawyer says she doesn't stand a chance, and I think she knows it since she hasn't moved forward. She's been panicking about losing everything, but I can't bring myself to feel bad. She threw it all away herself. She even told me Drew had cut her off, maybe because she was no longer convenient, or maybe because he didn't want to be tied to someone with her kind of baggage. Honestly, I don't even believe her. Lying is second nature to her. Moving on hasn't been easy. I still get sick thinking about it sometimes. She knew how seriously I take my health, yet she had no problem putting it at risk just to hide her affair. That's not something you get over quickly, but I'm taking it one day at a time. I rarely hear from her now. Eventually, she stopped calling when it became clear I had zero regrets about how badly things turned out for her. All in all, I consider it a win. My marriage is over, and I had to go through a nasty infection, but this is as close to a victory as you can get in a situation like this. And I'm okay with that. At least I still have my health. Honestly, learning she knew she was infected and still slept with you, that's beyond betrayal. No wonder you lost it when you saw that email. The fact that she tried to gaslight you while hiding the truth shows exactly how little she respected you. Protecting you by keeping you in the dark while infecting you is twisted logic. If she'd truly cared, she would have been honest or at least taken precautions. Blocking her spousal support and winning the negligence case was the absolute minimum she deserved. So what about you? Has a cheating partner ever left you with an unwanted parting gift? Share your stories in the comments. Thanks for joining us here on our space. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next video. Until next time.